Yes, guys, welcome back. Teams like Brighton, another episode for you guys. This time we're talking about Stoke City. It's the FA Cup midweek break challenge game week, whatever they're going to call it this time round. I don't like it.
Probably not that, but yeah.
Yeah, I don't like it. FA Cup should be at the weekends. The FA Cup magic is alive then. But look, it's going to be, well, it's the cliche, isn't it? Can we do it in a cold, wet, windy Tuesday night in Stoke? Richie, what do you reckon?
Oh, well, first off, I'm really happy that I'm going to be there to witness a cold, wet. Well, I don't know about the weather yet, but to go on a Tuesday night, the ultimate test in football. Lionel Messi never did it, so we shall see. But I think I'm feeling fairly confident. We're going to speak to Pete Smith, who covers Stoke week in, week out, and he was fairly despondent about Stoke's sort of current plight. They're 17th in the Championship. Very more miss than hit, and they've had quite a few difficult years since getting relegated from the Championship. But I just feel, and this is probably going to jinx it, but touch wood, I just feel that the Charlton loss in the Carabao Cup was this sort of the real wake up call that everyone at Brighton needed, not to sort of, I don't know. I don't think they underestimated Charlton, but to really give it their all. And I think they will definitely not be taking Stoke lightly. So I think I'm feeling positive. What about you?
Yeah, I'm feeling positive. I think there's going to be a lot of lessons learned from the Charlton defeat, and many will probably think what could have been. We might have been flirting with a final, perhaps. Who knows? But then again, we would have probably tried against Manchester United, who are just in lightning form at the moment, and rightly became EFL Cup winners at the weekend.
Brighton's bunnies.
Exactly. So it would have been interesting to see what could have been, and I think quite a fair few of them will be thinking that as they go into this match, being like, we can't make mistakes like we did last time around. And I think it'd be quite another bit of motivation for Lewis Dunk as well, because he'll no doubt want another appearance at Wembley for us. And if I'm right in saying it, that's this game and the quarterfinals away. Am I right in saying that? Yeah, I am. Yeah. It's another round. Then semi-finals are at Wembley, so hopefully we could go one step further and go final. Who knows? I would absolutely love it. I think it's a great chance for us to really solidify ourselves as hopefully cup contenders. Maybe it's weird to even discuss it in that way, but we are in this incredible position where we could well be one of the favourites if things go away going into the quarterfinals. Who knows? But look, we'll jump straight into the conversation that was had over at the press conference. Richie, you went to it. What were the key things that De Zerbi said?
Yeah, so first off, team news. So unfortunately, in-form left-back Pervis Estupiñán is not fit to play. I think he had I believe De Zerbi said after the Fulham loss, they had a slight tightness in his leg. So he's not in the squad for tomorrow, but he will be back training on Thursday. So hopefully he will be fit for West Ham on Saturday. Danny Welbeck is back, which is good after a muscular issue. Levi Cole is still a couple of weeks away from his quad injury, but he's back with the team in terms of training. Billy Gilmore's also a doubt. And this was a bit of a surprise, Solly March, sadly, can't play tomorrow, but De Zerbi said it's not a big problem. So that's just on my main takeaways from that are, one, Brighton don't really have a backup left back. Obviously, Solly March could have been that because he's played as left wing back and left back in the past. But if he's out, you're thinking, who actually goes at left back? Could Tarrant Lamptey maybe? He played pretty well against Arsenal in the Carabao Cup back in November in that position. De Zerbi has said that Pascal Gross is one of the most versatile players he's ever seen, and he's played at fullback in the past, so maybe he could play there. Who plays at right wing? Does maybe a Jeremy Sarmiento come in because he's played in the winger in the past? Would Matoma switch to the right? Maybe not, because you want to keep him in his strongest position on the left. He did confirm that Lewis Dunk will start, which will be his 400th appearance, and we'll come on to that a little bit later. But, who would he play with? Would it be Joel Veltman? Maybe a Jean-Paul Van Heck? There's quite a few interesting sort of selection dilemmas, I'd say. And just to add on the point about the selection, he basically said, I'm used to making changes in the first team, not only in the FA Cup, but now we have many good players and I want to give them the possibility to play and they feel confident and important. So do you think that maybe suggesting a bit of rotation there, Tom?
Yeah, absolutely. He's clearly got the West Ham match in mind as well. He wants to try and be successful everywhere he can. He's probably thinking about damage limitations against Stoke and then hopefully go on and just keep the momentum going in the Premier League and just keeping that European push alive. So he's clearly he's been dealt a bad hand, sadly. We've got, like you say, no one at left back really available. So could Tariq Lamptey come in? Well, if he does that, that's kind of throwing all his eggs in one basket, really, because then he probably might have to play him against West Ham. If a Estupiñán is back on Thursday, then there's a chance that we're racing for him to get fit. Solly March is out. I don't like it when managers are cryptic, when they say it's not a big problem or it's nothing too serious. It ends up being something rather serious. When you think of that, you think a week, 2 weeks tops then. But then it ends up being a month and then 6 weeks and then 2
months. I will
say,
sorry, I think De Zerbi's a little bit different, though. He literally just says it as it is, I think, most of the time, whereas Potter was a bit more like...
Potter and Houghton were very cryptic with it all, weren't they? But yeah, hopefully it's just a case of March just having a little bit of a niggle and he's just going to be resting it for the weekend, hopefully, or for next week, who knows. And
so who would you put maybe in for a Solly March on the wing, or maybe at centre back?
I think on the left back role, it's got to be Tariq Lamptey for me. I think he's brilliant, and like I say, he was superb in that role against Arsenal. So I think playing him in that role against Stoke will definitely give us a nice option on the wing in terms of pace. Centre back, don't know. Trying to think of the options. Van Heck might be a shout if they want to go down that route again. Can't remember. Veltman might be a better shout, to be honest with you, and it all depends on Webster as well. I think up front, well, on the right wing anyway, Sarmiento and Enciso, one of those. It depends how De Zerbi will line up ahead of that match. I think he'll probably go Sarmiento. I think he wants a bit of creativity in that on that wing, something that he can use and capitalize on, with Sarmiento cutting in, then Gross dragging himself out wide because he's a great crosser. He knows where to put the ball from the wings. There are a fair few options there. I think it's just a case of, for De Zerbi, he's got West Ham in mind as well at the weekend, and he wants to give them a good run for their money, especially when they've just had such a good result at the weekend too. So he's thinking further ahead, I think. But I would like to see Sarmiento start. I'm a big Sarmiento fan, and I really think that I think he should have fair few more minutes than he has done at the moment. Hopefully he gets given that chance tomorrow night and he absolutely bosses it, which would be fantastic. But not sure. What about you?
Yeah, it's I do, and I made this point before, but I think the fact that Brighton beat Arsenal with essentially a second string team, obviously Arsenal also played a second string team for the Carabao Cup game, just shows how much strength and depth Brighton do have. And there's always a fine line of going, do you play the kids? But the kids that Brighton have are pretty darn good. Like, even I'm quite excited to maybe see a bit more of Facundo Buonanotte, like you say, in Sarmiento and Enciso, and then maybe a Brighton debut for new signing Yasin Ayari. So, I think it would probably be smart to go with Lamptey at left back. Yeah, maybe. Well, he's already confirmed that Dunk's going to play. I would personally give Van Heck a go. I think he impressed against Middlesbrough and was, all right against Leicester in his Premier League debut. But we shall see. But moving on, a person, obviously you said a fan. One person who's a massive fan of this individual, Roberto De Zerbi, loves Lewis Dunk. So he was asked about the fact that the Brighton captain is set to make his 400th appearance for Brighton, which is pretty impressive. I think his debut was way back in the 2009-2010 season as a wee nipper 18-year-old. So he was asked about him in general, and he said, it's difficult to see how Dunk has never played for a big team in the Premier League, because if you ask me what I think about him, I would say he's one of the best defenders in the Premier League. So he's a massive fan. I was when he sort of said that, I was like, "Ooh, what's he going to say?" Because sometimes he has like, and then a pause, and he was sort of, and so he's going to say the best. I was thinking, is he going to say about, maybe he should have had more England caps? Or he has actually said that before. But yeah, he's he really, really admires him. And yeah, it's a fantastic achievement for Dunk. And hopefully Brighton can cap off that 400th appearance with a win.
Happy days. And yeah, absolutely. He's bang on the money, De Zerbi. Lewis Dunk is one of the best defenders in the Premier League as things stand. And it's utterly criminal, the fact that Gareth Southgate has overlooked him to just give him just the one cameo appearance in a friendly against the United States. He deserves more. I think he deserved more recognition. He's a fantastic ball playing centre half, centre back, and he fits well with Southgate's approach in the international format. And he's one of our own as well. He's just such a superb player, captain, role model, you name it. He's superb for us. And I honestly don't think that you could think of anyone better to set an example, set the tone well, as other than Lewis Dunk, in my book.
Yep, very well put. It was quite funny how in later on he was basically asked, because there was talk, he's a great player, 400 appearance, and then someone was like, is he actually going to play tomorrow? And he was like, yes, that's it. In less kind of positive news, obviously, after the Fulham game, De Zerbi was hit with an FA charge for improper conduct following his red card against Fulham. He didn't like the performance of Darren England. He said he didn't have any bad words, but maybe the FA have, I don't know. I'm not sure. But anyway, so the point is that we don't quite know yet what's going to happen, if it's going to be a fine or a touchline ban. He had until, I think, today to respond. That's Monday. So this was this was his response, which was an interesting one because it didn't really give too much away, a bit more cryptic, but he basically said, "I don't know the situation. We will see in the next few days. For me, the argument is closed. I spoke with you, the journalists, after the game against Fulham. I don't want to speak too much because I don't like to speak about referees or the decisions of referees." So obviously he spoke at length last time, and he basically said Howard Webb wasted his time after having like a 2-hour-long meeting with him following the incorrect decision to rule out Purvis Estupiñán's legitimate goal against Crystal Palace. Why do I waste my time if the concerns I raise literally a day ago, then they're just compounded by more errors and more mistakes from referees. So yes, Tom, obviously you're a referee. Where do you think this is going to go? Do you think it's going to lead to a?
I think if he's accepted the charges and he's been a bit more compliant, shall we say, it doesn't seem that anything that he has done specifically has warranted. I think it's just his general approach to the officials, he's just basically just done a lot of persistence and infringement, and I think it just got to the point where Darren England just said, "I've got no option now but to report you here now," and I think adding into stuff like it's a complete waste of time. He might have just coined a few phrases where it just didn't sit right with the officials. So again, that was reported, and then the FA just made this decision. I think if De Zerbi, clearly he's probably just accepted the charge, which will probably mean that he'll have a fine. He'll definitely be in the match tomorrow. If we're talking about touchline bans, we won't see that until Saturday now. You won't really see it being done on the day where you get told, yeah, you're not going to Stoke today, Mr. De Zerbi. It is a frustrating one because I do understand De Zerbi's frustrations in that. I do understand that the fact that he had this meeting with Howard Webb, which, by the way, I'll praise Howard Webb for this. He's come out, he's put his hands up, and he's been far more approachable, transparent, and accountable of the for refereeing in the Premier League than his predecessor was. But you know, when you've been told this, and then when you see what you saw in that match by Darren England, you just feel frustrated. You feel nothing but pure frustration, and it just got the better of De Zerbi, really, and it's just such a frustrating moment. But I don't think it's as bad as many people think it will be. I really doubt there'll be a touchline ban.
Fingers crossed. Final thing, just to kind of reiterate the point that Brighton are not underestimating Stoke. Basically, De Zerbi was asked about the opposition, and he said, and this I think goes to the point that the likes of Tony Bloom, Paul Barber, and David Weir said when De Zerbi was actually brought in as head coach. They were really impressed by the level of his knowledge and in-depth insight into Brighton, before he was hired. So he said, "We have studied Stoke, and they can play in different ways. They play with 5 defenders, sometimes 4, sometimes with 3 midfielders. They're used to changing their tactics, and we have to be ready to change to show our quality, our mentality, because that is more important than tactical or technical ability. We know it's a very important game, not only in the FA Cup, but also because we haven't had a victory in 3 weeks, going back to obviously the Bournemouth win, which does feel like quite a while ago now, going by Brighton's amazing season. And finally, we want to win the game and to play well." So yes, just really hammering home that point. But just to get a bit more expert insight into Brighton's opposition, we're going to speak to Pete Smith, Stoke reporter, just to get a little bit more info.
And joining us is Stoke City correspondent Pete Smith. Pete, how you doing?
Yeah, I'm all right, thank you. Looking forward to this one. It's funny to have a FA Cup game in a midweek night, but it should be really exciting. I haven't seen Brighton play for a while in the flesh, so looking forward to it.
Yeah, it is an interesting one. And of course, typically many people have been talking about whether or not De Zerbi can do it on a cold Tuesday night in Stoke. I'm sure you've probably been tired of that little gesture since reporting on the Potters. Let's jump straight in. So let's talk ahead to this weekend, because you're playing Millwall tomorrow and Brighton have a bit of a break. Do you feel like that's a bit of a unfair advantage that the Albion have going into this match?
Well, I think the unfair advantage is Brighton having world-class players and flying in the Premier League. I haven't take much notice that they're coming up a free weekend as well. It might help. I guess that they're going to change a bit of the team. They might give players a bit of a chance anyway who haven't been playing all that much in the Premier League. I think Stoke might make a couple of changes too, because they've got it's been a real busy February. It's Saturday midweek. You know what life's like in the Championship. So yeah, I don't think that'll have too much bearing on the game itself. But hopefully we get to see a few of the really exciting players that we've been watching on TV for the last few months, and then get to see Stoke test themselves against it.
I just want to get your thoughts, Pete, on Stoke's season as a whole. I'm looking at the table and it says down in 17th. The form since I think Alex Neil came in late August has been. It seems like there hasn't been that many sort of consistent runs. How would you sum up Stoke's campaign so far?
You were very diplomatic there, Richie. It's I think when you look at Stoke, bottom half of the Championship, and they've been bottom half ever since they were relegated from the Premier League in 2018. Every season they've finished in the bottom half. And this season feels like it's been a slog, but it has been a slog. They've been it's been really disappointing. Every summer, supporters begin to think that this might be the year that you can sustain a challenge for the playoffs. And this year faded away quicker than the other ones in the past. But I would say that over the last few weeks, Alex Neil, perhaps since the January transfer window, he's been able to bring in a couple of signings that have been able to shape perhaps or give people an idea of the direction he wants to shape the squad. And they're coming off a midweek win at Swansea, which has given supporters a bit of hope about the character of the players that he's got and his vision for the future. He's made key signings just to go through them: goalkeeper, a defensive midfielder, a creative player, fullbacks, and we know that he wants to bring in a target man in the summer. And all of a sudden, people are starting to get the impression that of what his side will look like if everything goes the way he wants it to. So there's a little bit of optimism burning away. Although I'm talking before they play Millwall at home against Gary Rowett tomorrow. If they lose that, what it's like in the Championship is a bit of a rollercoaster of emotions.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't, but sometimes I do miss those days of just the whirlwind in the Championship.
Well, the biggest thing when we went down was that there's so much football. Often in the Premier League, you'd lose a game to Burnley or West Ham or Newcastle or somebody, and then you have 2 weeks to stew on it until your next game. You say, just play some football. When you're not involved in Europe, there aren't that many games. Whereas in the Championship, it comes so fast.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, obviously Stoke have been there now. This is their 5th season back in the Championship. What has been the reason that Stoke haven't been able to mount a playoff or promotional challenge since returning to the second tier?
Good question.
Okay. Yeah, crikey. Well, I don't know where to start really. They got in a real hole with financial fair play. That's the key reason. When they first got relegated, they tried to follow the Newcastle United model with spending a lot of money that summer to give themselves the best chance of going up immediately. But when that didn't go well, they were left with a lot of players on big money, and the financial fair play rules in the Championship are so tight that they had to rein everything in. And all of a sudden, Plan A was all about not facing a points deduction or punishments from the Football League. In the past 3 years have been about moving players on and trying to scrape everything back and starting again. It's been a real drag, hard work. They're finally coming through it. This will be it's a huge summer that they've got ahead of them. They've got, I think, about 11 senior players under contract for next season, which is when Michael O'Neill took charge in November 2019. There were 37 players in the squad who played in the first team, and now, going forward into the summer, there'll be 11, which is an incredible turnaround. And that's come at the same time as they've come to the end of the worst financial fair play restrictions. They've got owners who want to put in as much money as they can, but they're limited. But all of a sudden, the doors opened a little bit. So it should be a really exciting summer for them to make a big mark.
I wanted to ask, what's the defining kind of features of an Alex Neil team? Like what kind of formation do they use? And I guess, where maybe their strengths are and their weaknesses are.
He's been a bit hamstrung by the squad that he inherited that was built for wing backs. I think he prefers to play with a back four and wingers, but Stoke haven't really got many wingers in the squad at the moment. So that's forced his hand a little bit. In the past couple of weeks, he's gone with a 4-2-3-1, and the Ben Pearson, who's joined from Bournemouth, will be a big figure in the middle of midfield, just sitting in front of the back four. I think the squad at the moment is designed to is naturally at its best when the backs are against the wall and they can counter-attack. Unfortunately, not many teams in the Championship want to have a lot of possession. So Stoke are forced to have a lot of the ball in a lot of games, and they're not very good on that side of it, breaking teams down who sit back. And that's something they've got to add to their armoury. But in the past couple of years, it's actually suited them to play against the bigger teams, the better teams, and even have some cup surprises, particularly in the League Cup. They've beaten Wolves and Aston Villa away from home. And they've been pretty good at standing tall, digging deep, and then trying to hit teams on the break. So that might make Tuesday more interesting than perhaps it would seem to the bookies. But having said that, I don't think there'll be many people backing Stoke to be in the quarterfinals.
Well, you never know. It's the FA Cup. You probably just jinxed yourself, but in a good way for yourself there.
I'm trying to dig myself out of the hole.
But, I think it's easy for us to ask this question, given ahead that this is our next match. But obviously, you've got a match against Millwall. So, and you mentioned about possible couple players might be rotated here. Who do you think will be the standout players that the Albion will need to look out for when we come to the Bet365 Stadium?
Well, in attack, the Stoke's best two attackers are Jacob Brown, who's really hard-working and likes to get make attack space behind defences. And Tyrese Campbell can turn and dribble and run at defenders. He's capable of doing something a little bit special. Josh Tymon, the left wing back, has been attracting Premier League scouts. So those are probably the three who will stand out. As you never know you never quite know what their ceilings will be in their careers. They're all still quite young. So yeah, those are probably the three to keep your eye on.
And obviously, from a Stoke perspective, I hope there's no injury, so we can have a full team going against each other. But are there any kind of absentees for Stoke at the moment?
Yeah, the goalkeeper Matti Sarkic, who they brought in on loan from Wolves, is cup tied, so he's a big loss. He's been making quite an impression actually. He's only played 3 or 4 games, and he's added a new solidity, which was much needed. So he'll have to sit out. And Jack Bonham will come back in goal. So that'll be a big change. And because there've been, I think, 5 games in 17 days, I expect Alex Neil will make a couple of changes as well. There's a couple of players coming back from injury. Sam Clucas might get his first taste since November. He had back surgery in November. And there's a couple of kids as well who might get on the pitch at some point. There's a 17-year-old striker called Nathan Lowe, who is really exciting at junior level, scores a lot of goals, and it'll be interesting if he can get on the pitch at some point.
And I'm quite curious to hear your point of view from this as an outsider. Who do you think will be the players that Stoke will fear the most from the Albion?
Well, I don't want to dodge the question, but the most impressive point whenever I watch Brighton is that they play as a unit. It's the whole team. I think that's been so impressive, and despite the players that they've lost over the last couple of seasons, it just seems so seamless that you can just pull someone out and slot them in, and you wouldn't even notice sometimes. So yeah, they seem like the model. When Stoke were in the Premier League, they're often referred to as the role model for clubs aspiring to come up from the Championship and follow their model without burning too much money. And I think Brighton have taken that mantle now, and they're the team that everybody wants to be.
That's such
a
diplomatic answer there.
Final one, Pete. So obviously, you to get to this point, you beat Hartlepool and Stevenage, so kind of lower league opposition. What's your prediction for Tuesday's game?
Well, the key for Stoke will be keeping it tight. So I've got to predict a Stoke win. I know they're at home, so I'll go with a 1-0 Stoke win after extra time.
Nice, Tom.
After extra time as well, I'm gonna go for 2-0 win the Albion.
Yeah, I think it would definitely be, obviously, because Brighton thrashed Middlesbrough a couple of rounds ago. But I think it'll be. I don't think it will be like a Charlton upset. But I do think it'll be really close. I think Brighton might nick it 2-1. But yeah. Anywho, right. Well, yeah, Pete, thanks so much for coming on. Do you want to just say where people can sort of find your content and on Twitter and that sort of thing?
Well, if you're ever in Stoke-on-Trent, anybody, then nip into the newsagents and pick up a copy of the Sentinel. We'll always appreciate you picking up a copy and supporting us that way. And on Stoke-on-TrentLive as well, our website. We try to give an objective opinion. I'm not sure we've managed to do that too many times, but yeah, it's give us a click.
Great stuff. Cheers, Pete. Thank you very much. Enjoy the game.
Yeah, no problem.
Nice
to see you
as well.
Yeah, cheers. See you on Tuesday.